This is Matt Lambert, and this is the Fort Worth Fly Fishers podcast. Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a fly fishing club in Fort Worth, Texas, dedicated to the sport of fly fishing and open to anyone interested in fly fishing activities. Fort Worth Fly Fishers sponsors fishing experiences in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, education about fly fishing, and conservation activities to help ensure fly fishing activities and locations are available to members and the community. It is a nonprofit organization organized under IRS Section 501c3. Welcome to today's podcast with Stephen Woodcock to talk about fishing for white bass, or as some call them, sand bass, on the Nolan River. Fishing the Nolan River is one of our club's favorite outings each spring. With recent rains and the redbuds blooming, it is a perfect time to get out and do some white bass fishing at the Nolan River and other rivers around the DFW area. Stephen, welcome to the podcast. Can we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been fly fishing?
Sure. Hey, Matt, thanks you for doing this. I've been in America about 30 years now. I lived in England originally, moved to Australia for a couple of years, tried fly fishing, which I thought was never going to be my future, but it turned out to be different. But that's where also I met my future wife, who is from Arizona. So we met up and moved back to England, but things didn't work out. So my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was a girlfriend and she moved back to the States. I realized that was a mistake. A few months later, came across the States, apologized and made up. We came back to live in England for a few years where we got married. And then she decided to move to America and I said, let's go. And we moved to Fort Worth, Texas. And that's how I got here.
That's a lot like a lot of us have with experiences. I met my wife nearly 50 years ago, and after 30 days, we were engaged and have been together forever since then.
Congratulations. Well done.
Let's talk about what equipment you should use fishing for white bass.
Yeah. Anybody can take up fly fishing for white bass. It's not that specific. It's not hard. I recommend it. Any rod between a 3 or even up to an 8 weight. If you've been given one or want to buy one, it's not that specific. The fish aren't too hard to catch if you can find them. So 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say on average a 6 weight would be a good rod if you had to go with one. That'd be my favorite. Reels, not terribly important, as long as they hold a floating line and a sink tip line. We'll talk about lines in a little bit, but that's going to be important. Reels, the fish aren't that strong. They're powerful, but they're not that strong. So the reels, again, not particularly expensive or important. You need one to carry your line back and forth. But that's your main equipment, rod, reel, line. Leaders, we can talk about leaders briefly. Gets a bit complicated. You can have regular leaders, floating leaders. But if the water's deep, and often after the big rains, the water does get a little deep, you want to go down a bit deeper to catch the fish. We may need a sink tip line or a sinking leader. So I always take 2 with me just in case, and that covers my bases. That's most of the equipment.
When you talk about floating versus sink tip, tell me what you mean by the differences between them.
Well, most people, about 90% of the fly lines we sell and most people buy are floating lines. It floats on the water when you cast it out, and the leader on the end, the monofilament, might sink a little bit, but the line floats. It's easy to pick up and cast again. Sink tip lines are a little more tricky. The sink tip sinks a few feet under the water. So when you strip the fly back or the line back, it stays under the water. When you strip a floating line back, it brings the fly up near the surface and sometimes away from the fish. So people skip some fish. So having that sinking option does give you more access to more fish.
Are there differences in sink tip lines?
Yes, some sink very fast indeed. I'd avoid those like the plague. They're going to snag your flies on the bottom of the river. You're going to break a lot of flies off. I would say a type 3 or 2 or 3 inch per second descent would be the best. Have that in your box or in your backpack, and then have a floating line, just depending on the depth of the water. Use the right line for the right situations.
And you talked about leaders and tippet. Tell me about the different kinds of leaders that you can use. What size, how long they should be, what kind of knots should you use?
Cool. Yeah, great questions. The leaders, relatively short. I don't think you'd go with longer leaders. Leaders normally come 7.5 feet or 9 feet long. If you're going to go with the floating line only, use a 9-foot leader. This will give you some options to get down a little deeper and catch the fish. But if you're using a sink tip line, we need a short leader. So the line, the fly moves at the same speed as the sinking part of the fly line or the sinking leader. So just to clarify, it gets a little complicated, but most leaders are clear and they're monofilament or fluorocarbon, and they are tapered so the fly lands delicately near the fish. They will sink with the weight of the fly, but if anybody knows about throwing a heavy fly on a fly line on a leader, it's not a fun task. So it's just easier to cast a slightly heavier fly to get down to the fish with a line that will stay down and keep it in the fish's zone near the bottom of the river, where nearly all the sand bass are going to be.
Now we talk about tippet too. What is tippet, and what kind of tippet should someone be using?
Tippet already comes on a leader. When you buy a leader, there's normally 2 feet of tippet already on it. You can't see it, it's extruded by the factory when they make them. But that last 2 feet is just not tapered, it's just straight, regular size and width and length tippet on the end, but it's been manufactured together. That's the bit of the usable part of the leader you can wear out. Every time you remove a fly or break one off, that leader gets a bit shorter and you're using up the tippet at the end of it. After about 2 feet of using up, breaking off on flies, breaking off on trees, and the tippet gets shorter, and we lost 2 feet of the total length of the leader, we need to replace that with a tippet of the same diameter that was used originally. And that's the tippet that goes on the end.
Well, what size tippet should you use? How should that match to the leader?
The fish, normally it goes to the size of the hook and often the size of the fish. So we're catching sand bass, they run about 2 pounds on a good day or less. So a 3X leader, probably about an 8 pound. So 3X it's a measurement, a sort of Victorian way of measuring diameter and strength. But just use the poundage. The weakest part of it is 8 pounds, which is a 3X leader. So a 9-foot 3X leader will get you covered most of the time.
Okay. So how should you attach extra tippet to your leader?
That's a double surgeon knot. It's an overhand knot. You put the tippet and the leader parallel to one another, do an overhand knot once, pull the leader and tippet through, do an overhand knot again, pull the leader tippet through, and then pull it tight. It's a snug knot. Normally that information comes with a new leader. If you buy a new leader, most of the manufacturers have that information on the back.
I know that's always something that people get a little confused about, how to do those knots and everything. And certainly we'd suggest that you practice making those knots and tying those knots before you go out to the river, because otherwise standing in the river trying to turn and tie those knots can often be a little bit
tricky.
Frustrating.
Very tricky. It'd be difficult to see. Sometimes it's monofilament, so it's clear, sunny day, seeing what you're doing. But practice with a bigger piece of string to start with, and then get that knot down good. It's going to be a lot cheaper and save money by putting tippet on the end of your leaders than having to put just brand new leaders on every time and wear them out.
Let's talk about flies, because there's lots of different flies. Some of them are weighted heavily, some aren't heavily weighted. So what kind of flies should we use, and is it better to buy flies, tie your own, or what?
Well, I'm in the business of selling flies here at Orvis, but I also make a lot of my own, and I strongly recommend you make your flies. You catch a fish and the fly you tied yourself, it feels fantastic. I can only recommend it the most. Fly choices. Most of the time, the sand bass are going to be eating bait fish from 1 inch, maybe up to 3 inches. So the fly should look somewhat like a bait fish. And bait fish tend to sink near the bottom or the middle. They can be near the surface, but they don't float too well. So most sand bass flies are white and silvery. Looks like a little bait fish, and they have some sort of weight to the front to make sure they have a sort of a diving motion. And if the water is high after a big rain, you do want your fly to get to the bottom of the river, so some weight will help.
So what are some of the flies that people use to fish for sand bass or white bass in the Nolan River and other rivers around the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Well, most of the time, a Clouser minnow is going to be your go-to fly. It's a very simple fly. It rides with hook up, so if it does hit bottom, it probably won't snag too often. A local pattern that only sort of Fort Worth people seem to know about is the Seipert minnow. Charlie Seipert down in Waco used to make these. I'm trying to have them made in the store, but they're easy pattern. It's a wonderful, good pattern for catching sand bass. It's white chenille with some flash on it. It's good looking, and it catches other species too. But I'd say the Clouser minnow, the Seipert minnow, anything with a bait fish sort of look to it. There's something called a Mad Tom that I'm famous for, and we sell them in the store. That's a great one. I like rabbit myself. White rabbit's kind of a great motion in the water. So but marabou will be good. A white woolly bugger, a conehead white woolly bugger that most people have, maybe fishing for trout, will work perfectly as well. One more fly. I do know that a lot of people use bonefish flies. If you've been bone fishing anywhere, you have some crazy charlies or gotchas in white. They work particularly well too.
Well, you said that you could catch other fish besides the sand bass or the white bass. What other fish might you catch in the Nolan River?
Well, the good thing about the Nolan River is that there are other species living there most of the year. And striped bass, much larger cousins of the white bass, come up from the Brazos River and come in. So often you'll catch some sand bass one after the other, and then all of a sudden a huge fish takes your fly and takes off with it, and it's going to probably end up to be a striped bass. Now, the largemouth bass, as the water increases in temperature, the largemouth bass will also try and get in on the action. So the timing is sort of everything, and the water flow too.
So, how do you want to rig and fish your flies in the Nolan River or other rivers around this part of Texas?
Well, normally we just tie a loop knot on the end of the leader or tippet, depending on which one you put on, and then we tie that clouser minnow on. The non-slip mono loop knot or lefty craze loop knot is going to be the best version because the fly has a lot of action to it and it's much more natural in the water. You can go ahead and use the regular clinch knot, the 5-turn clinch knot that everybody's familiar with for trout fishing, but it loses some motion. And I like that loop knot, just get a bit more action to it. And you just tie that on the end of your leader and cast away. Normally the technique is often to cast out, let the fly sink just to maybe 1 count, 2 count, 3 count, and then start stripping. Small little stripping motions simulate little bait fish trying to swim away from a predator. And if that doesn't work, maybe count to 5. And then maybe try another cast, count to 10 until you hit the bottom. Now you know the depth of the water, and the fish are going to be in that middle depth towards the bottom. And then once you know, cast out, count down, strip, fish on. The good thing about sand bass is they're quite forgiving, and they're normally in large groups. So when you catch one, your chances are you're going to catch more. So it's a great way for beginners or experts to do it. I mean, I've done this for 32 years. I still enjoy it. I still look forward to it. It's just great fun.
How about landing the fish? Once you get it hooked and get it up close to landing it, how do you want to land that fish?
Well, there's a couple of options. I tend to wear gloves when I go fly fishing so if I fall over, I don't cut my hand, or sunburn. I get sunburn on the back of my hand. So I wear gloves. I tend to grab the fish, wet my hand first, wet the glove, and grab the fish. Now, they are quite spiky. You'll notice they've got spikes on their fins, and it could spike you and stab you a little bit. Not that it's going to be terrible, but it's not the most fun. Lipping the fish, their mouths aren't particularly big, so we don't often go in for the lips. And a net can be good too. Just scoop them up, bring them in with a net. That's another way. If you're keeping some, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you feel happy with.
What other equipment would you want to have when you're fishing the Nolan River or any river around this part of Texas for bass, sunfish, crappie, anything else?
This time of year can be a little tricky with the temperature. You've got a cold front coming through next week down into the 40 degrees. That means waders are probably still being worn right around now. Waders and boots to keep you dry. When it warms up at the end of the month, maybe middle of April, it's warm enough, we just wet wade with wading boots and regular fishing pants. So other equipment we need. I would always take a wading staff. I don't care which river it is, especially the Nolan River, if it's been shallow water. I went last year, I didn't have studs in my boots, and I didn't bring the wading staff thinking I didn't need it. It was slippery as hell. The water was very shallow, the sunlight had come out, and this green algae had grown over all the shallow rocks. It's very slippery, and I struggled a lot, almost fell over 5 times. I put studs in my boots to give me more traction, and I took my wading staff the next time, and it was a godsend.
What's the best time of year to fish for white bass?
That's a tricky one. No, so there's always a bit of a gamble and a bit of a challenge or a competition between all the fly fishing people around here who can be the first person to catch a sand bass. Now, they often run as early as January, and I've got reports in onesies, twosies in January. Normally the males come up first in the season, so they'll be the small ones, but if you catch one, it's still pretty cool. But really, we're looking for middle March. The rains have come, the weather's warmed up, the red buds, as you mentioned before, are blooming. This gives you a good indication that the fish will be running to go up to the rivers and spawn.
Where do the fish come from?
They come normally from the major rivers. or the lakes. So if you're going to Benbrook, not far from here, they'll go up Mustang Creek. Um, if the river is high enough for them to navigate. If not, they will spawn in the mouth of the lake right there when they come into the creek. But normally the river comes up high, then the fish run like crazy up the river, and you're trying to find them when the water settled back down in either ponds or shallow water.
How far upriver will they go?
They go a long way. So the Bosque River, further south from us, they travel a long way from the lake that's down there. Benbrook, it's maybe 2 or 3 miles. They're not long distance runners like salmon, but they will make their way up. They do prefer running water, smoother, skinnier running water. And the Nolan River goes up about 5 miles, so they're going to come out of the Brazos River there and run all the way up to the middle of town. We've seen them actually beyond there too. So they do travel quite a ways.
Speaking of the Brazos River, I was out last week on the Brazos up by Horseshoe Bend. The sand bass hadn't come up that far yet. And so we were waiting. Hopefully now with this rain and the warmer weather,
Yep.
they'll start coming up out of Lake Granbury
Yes.
and go up to Horseshoe Bend, which is a great place for sand bass because there's a lot of sand flats there where they like to spawn. And it's really a nice area, easy wading, real comfortable for some of us that are getting a little older and a little bit less mobile than we used to be. It's a perfect way to go fish up there.
Perfectly. There's some places you can pay $5 and the people let you on their land, park your car, just walk down the easy bank onto the sandbars and find the fish in the deeper pools up against the banks, under the trees often.
So we talked about that, some other rivers like the Bosque, the Brazos. What other rivers might there be around here?
There are the Trinity River. There is a few. There's a run on the Trinity River, although it's very touch and go. I've only caught a few this time of year. It's just not a standard thing. We've got Denton Creek, although a little bit tricky to navigate, is very, very famous. It's up near, can't remember the name of the town up there. Denton Creek. Doesn't matter. It's up north, not too far, just off the freeway. Great river, lots of sand bass go into there. So we talked about the Bosque, we talked about the tributaries coming into Benbrook, the Nolan,
The Brazos coming out of Lake Granbury.
the Brazos. I've caught them at most of the fish will run up as far as they can. So sometimes I've actually fished behind the dam at Granbury, decoyed over dam, and caught thousands of sand bass right behind there because they can't get obviously past that dam.
Right, that's a good place to fish. It's a little tricky going down to the river, and you want to make sure if you do go there that you don't go up beyond the sign where up by the dam because you will get a ticket.
The flashing lights, yeah, watch out. They never used to be when I first started, but now they're pretty particular about that. Do not break the laws there, please.
Yeah. There, last time I was out there, there was a game warden there just standing there looking for anybody that was going to go up past the sign and the flashing lights. And of course, you don't want to be there if they open up the floodgates and all of a sudden you have a big stream of water coming down.
No.
Because it'll be a little risky.
That can be very dangerous. Do watch out. So we took a group of friends out last year, and halfway through, and this is very unusual for the Nolan River, but about midday, one of my friends said, "Is the river coming up?" I go, "I don't think so. It's not like regulated." But yes, it was. We had to get out of the water really quickly, and people were on the wrong side. We had to straddle them across to get them out there safely.
Okay. What about the difference between wading and using something like a kayak?
Well, a kayak is never. I love my kayak, don't get me wrong, for certain situations. If I need to travel somewhere, let's say I'm on the Sabine River on the Louisiana-Texas border where the largest sand bass live, 2, 3, 4 pounds, huge sand bass. You'll need a kayak to navigate that river. It's stumpy, it's slippery, it's difficult to get to. And you'll stay in the boat because it's a little fast going too. But most of the time we wade for the sand bass. It's just an easy, don't need an extra craft, don't need to buy a kayak, most access from the wading. Just the one problem with it is the water or the banks nearby can be very muddy indeed. And I did slip over once and I hurt myself. So do be careful. The mud banks and the sand banks can be very slippery. Be careful.
Well, anything else that we would really want to know about, white sand bass fishing in this part of Texas?
I would say no, we've covered most of it there. Now, when it gets a bit warm and the bluebonnets come out in force, the temperature changes and the sand bass will turn around and go back. But I've caught them into May, so don't give up on them too soon. People start thinking about largemouth bass in April, but into May you can still catch wonderful sand bass in places you wouldn't imagine. The wildflowers come out. It's just a joy to be out in the springtime catching sand bass. One of my favorite fish.
Anything else you would want to tell someone about getting ready to fish for sand bass, or anything else they need to take along with it, other than things like water, sunglasses, you know, sunscreen, those kinds of things?
Yeah, no, no, no. So, I mean, I'm always cautious about sunburn. Having a sun mask like a buff, a wide brimmed hat. I know so the fly doesn't get hit in your ears either, but it keeps the sun off your face. Sunproof clothing, anything you can for safety when it comes to that. Sunglasses, a must. One for safety, but two, just to take that glare off the water. And often I'll go fishing when it's not too muddy water, and you'll see schools of water. The most amazing thing about this is you'll step into the water and you see a large black shape in front of you, and it separates, and you realize those are thousands of sand bass. Now, the crappie sometimes mix in with them as well, so you can often catch crappie too. But the sand bass will separate, and then you step out and they come back in. You go, oh, you found the mother lode. This is going to be a lot of fun, and you'll catch many as you want. And they taste well. I keep a few once a year, but there are some restrictions. And I did hear there was a restriction on the Nolan River last year that they don't recommend keeping them from that river at the moment till the water clears up.
Well, I think we've covered a lot. Let's shift gears a little bit right now, because I know you've been involved with our club for many, many years.
Yes.
And I'd like you to talk a little bit about what it's been like to be a member of the club and why you think the club is important, not only for its members, but for the region as well.
Well, I started in the club 30 something years ago, and I went to one meeting. I knew nothing. I was a total rookie, had bad equipment, and I met a guy in the club. And he sat next to me, and we went through the presentation. And he says, "Hey, you want to go fishing on Saturday?" I said, "Are you sure? You don't even know me." He says, "Yeah, I'll take you. Let's go." And he took me each weekend to different locations. And it was very, very heartwarming that he would take his time and help me out. And I learned all these spots. We became great friends for many, many years. And he showed me places, and then we went to other locations and investigated them ourselves. So I love the club for that reason. I've been in the club for 30 years, as I said. I've taken most positions in the club. I just like the fact that we can pass it on to other people because it's not tricky, but it's some knowledge, and we like to pass that knowledge on. I mean, the older guys who I met when I first started were sages. They knew everything. We respected them like crazy. And I guess now, after 30 years, people ask me for that information. I'm glad to give it. Like,
Well, I know I've been a member of the club for about 5 years now, and I've really enjoyed the kinds of activities that they do, the presentations they do every month at the meetings, the kinds of things that are available, like the auction every year, which is our annual fundraiser. There was a lot of good things that were in the auction last year, ranging from trips to Patagonia to a kayak to other trips and a lot of equipment. So it's really a good, fun thing. And again, I would agree the camaraderie of the club is really what makes it worthwhile.
totally, totally. And at the auction, you also get a chance to bid on a trip for fishing with me. I'll take you to one of my secret spots for largemouth bass, and you'll have a blast.
Let's talk a little bit because I know you just came back from a really, really great trip to Brazil. And I know that you've
Wow.
posted some pictures. We've seen those. And I know you didn't have any fun at all. You didn't
No,
catch
this was a
any
very
fish.
work trip. I told my wife yesterday this was not a vacation or I had any fun. I was working hard every day, trying to catch some of the biggest fish and strongest fish I've ever caught in my life. It was an amazing trip to Brazil, down into Manaus, and then off into the jungle in the Amazon, the Rio Negro, where we went on to catch one day 85 peacock bass in a day, a new record for the lodge. It was amazing. We started off by trying to catch arapaima, which got up to 300 pounds, and I hooked one like that, but it broke my fly line, disintegrated the fly line, and cut my finger sort of badly. But anyway, I did catch some other arapaima, which I'm so happy to do. But the animals, the fish, the location, if you ever get a chance, you must go peacock bass fishing. It's like bass fishing around here, except on steroids. It's just an absolute blast.
Okay. And that was all on a fly rod.
Everything on a fly rod. A lot of people go down there. They use spin gear with treble hooks and lots of, I don't know, I don't even know the names of them. I haven't spin fished in so many years. But these wooden things with like 3 treble hooks dangling on it. No, we use flies only. Half the flies I tied myself, and the bass were eating them readily. But if you bass fish around here, you could easily bass fish in the Amazon. It's just expect a hell of a bigger fight.
I have a trip planned for Baja later this year for Dorado and for roosterfish.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. I went there many years ago. In a magazine, they had a rooster fish. So I decided to go down there, dragged my wife down there, stayed in a not a great resort, and went out to try and fish by myself for rooster fish. And the waves were so high for the first day, couldn't fish more than 10 minutes. Second day, the wind had cut down, but the waves were still too high. The third day, it was calm. I caught 6 roosterfish on flies I tied myself, just casting from the beach. I will never forget that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, certainly. And we'll probably get in some time to fish for tuna as well, so we can bring back some tuna for dinner.
Wow, well, they fight like crazy. Now, if you catch those on a fly rod, watch out for your hands being bumped by the the reel of the handle spinning around so fast.
Okay.
Small tuna will do that.
Anything else that you would want to talk about at this point before we kind of wind things up?
No, I can just say fly fishing, since I took it up many years ago, my father was always concerned that I took up a career in fly fishing. He said, but what if you get burnt out? What if you don't like it anymore? And I thought about this and I thought, well, that's a possibility, but it's never ever happened. I still get excited every time before I go fly fishing in the morning. I nearly always can't sleep the night before. It doesn't matter what fish we're going for. It excites me tremendously. It's just so much fun being in a river, trying to hunt fish down, take a picture of them and put them back. It's the coolest thing ever.
Well, let me talk a little bit about our upcoming club trip to the Nolan River. It's scheduled for March 28th, which is a Saturday, and we will meet in Blum, which is a small town south of Cleburne, and we usually meet at the Conoco station on Highway 933, usually meeting at 6:30, kind of getting together with everyone, talking about what we're going to do. And then it's a short drive down the road to the bridge that goes over the Nolan River. We park there, and then we walk down the river, and we fish at least a half a day until everybody gets tired. And then we go have a lunch in Cleburne at a hamburger joint there. And it's always a lot of fun to do that, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of time to talk about the fishing we've done, tell the stories, tell the lies that go along with it.
That's for sure.
And then, but to participate in the club activities, you would need to be a member of the club. And certainly you can go online to our club website, which is fortworthflyfishers.org, which is all one word. So you can go there and then see the activities that we do. The newsletter is available. A link to this podcast is available. So there's all sorts of things that are available out through the club. And we encourage you, if you just want to check it out, to come to our monthly meeting, which is the first Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock at the University of North Texas Health Sciences Center. Again, that information about its location is on our club website. So check us out. Come visit. No obligations. Enjoy your time. And remember, fly fishing only happens in beautiful places. So if you want to get out and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy a sport that has so many opportunities and activities available, then come check out our club, check out our activities, come join us, and enjoy your fly fishing adventures. Stephen, thanks for joining us this evening. We really enjoyed having you and your information about fly fishing for white bass on the Nolan River. Join us again next time. Thanks everyone for joining us. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our next podcast. If you're interested in learning more about our club, check out fortworthflyfishers.org. Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a 501c3 organization responsible for all content. Keep fishing and remember, fly fishing happens in beautiful places.